Then why would we have different dormitories for races?
Culture.
Segregation is what you're arguing for, my friend. Would you support white-only dormitories?
But you didn't go to college, so I guess you wouldn't know.
Remember the book and you didn't, and you paid for it.
You're on record for stating, and I quote, "This is the gayest generation of America." Some of your opponents seem to believe you have homosexual tendencies.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be watching Charlie Kirk repeatedly light up a few students who come at him with some heat and also at times with some quite frankly absurd claims. This is a great one, so enjoy.
To address your previous assertion that race means nothing, critical race theory is not being taught in schools. It is a academic theory that's pretty much delegated only to higher academia. They're not teaching it in schools. Your explanation of it was an oversimplification. You address the real history behind it, unlike most people. And why, if race means nothing, does it affect our history? Say 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Why is there such evil history with something that supposedly means nothing?
Okay, so first of all, you're wrong. It is being taught in elementary schools. I'll give you an example. Not only is it being taught, it's being enforced. So in Denver, there is a playground where they say white families not allowed. Would you support that?
That seems like a ridiculous edge case.
So I'll give you another example. Actually, in the National Education Association's training manual, which is the largest teacher union in the country, they had a seminar on how to teach critical race theory to kids. That sounds like it's in our schools, doesn't it?
What that is it's literally just common sense. It's saying that this is real history. This is what has happened in the past.
Right. So
and that matters.
Okay, got it. So, for example, would you say that black-only dormitories is wrong?
It certainly creates a sense of community. I don't see any problem with that. We have sororities. We have male-only dorms.
Right. So racial differences are irrelevant and immaterial. Chromosomal differences actually do matter. But let me ask you a question. Are there differences between races?
No, not biologically.
Then why would we have different dormitories for races?
Culture.
Segregation is what you're arguing for, my friend.
No, sir. No, sir.
How is it not segregation to have blacks in their own dorm?
You've just pigeonholed me, essentially. You've essentially just you've distracted from my original argument.
No, you did that to yourself. Let's reemphasize. So Ibram X. Kendi argues, who is one of the leading thinkers of critical theory, race theory, discrimination today to atone for discrimination of yesterday. We have black-only graduation ceremonies at Columbia University, black-only dormitories across the country, for example, at Western Washington University. Can you join me today in saying black-only dormitories are evil, wrong, and it's segregation?
You still haven't answered my question about why does this history simultaneously mean nothing?
Well, I'm happy to answer that, but the fact you're dodging segregation in America, why is that?
I'm arguing against segregation.
So you're against black-only dormitories?
Yes.
Well, you said it was a force of community, and then not for critical race theory.
That's an option. We have choice.
Oh, so you could choose to segregate.
That's a pigeonhole.
What do you think of white-only dormitories?
What?
Would you support white-only dormitories?
Everybody has a choice.
So I think white-only and black-only anything is evil and wrong. That's why I hate critical theory and critical race theory, because when it's put in practice, you start to discriminate people based on race. So we're now south of the Mason-Dixon line in North Carolina. We did a lot of work to get rid of segregation in this country. Why are you trying to bring it back?
What work?
The Civil Rights Act of 1964.
In this state?
Yeah, actually in this state. Are there black-only bathrooms out there I'm unaware of, or white-only bathrooms?
Nah.
Right. A lot of work was done in this state.
Fuck you, your face is small.
Well, thanks for being here. They always go to insults when they lose the argument. God bless you, my friend.
That has to be the lamest, most chicken shit attempt to insult somebody I've ever seen. And I love how he said, oh, you've pigeonholed me. That's a funny way to put it. Actually, no, he simply used your own logic against you to put you in a position where you're confronted with your own cognitive dissonance. It's so funny to me to have situations like this where you've got somebody who is in no uncertain terms arguing for segregation. He definitely just said that black-only dorms create communities. Okay, so with that logic, then the Jim Crow era, they were just creating communities. Same with apartheid South Africa. And then Charlie comes in with the white-only dormitories question, which is essentially like launching a grenade at this young man's worldview. Just think about how badly this destroys his argument. Because if he supports white-only dormitories, like he said with black-only dorms, that they're just creating communities, all of a sudden, he is a white supremacy apologist. It would mean that he wouldn't get invited for a soy latte with the liberal arts gang between classes anymore. But because he's being confronted with this blatant double standard, he has to say, everyone has a choice. Isn't it funny how quickly they can just shapeshift from communist to libertarian like that? And that's why it's very important to be consistent, guys. Now on to the next bit, guys, where remarkably, a surprise guest in circa 2010, Justin Bieber gets up to actually debate Charlie.
Okay. I just wanted to real quick ask you, can you clarify your definition of critical race theory?
Yeah, Derek Bell's. So what he wrote in 1991, Intro to Critical Race Theory. What's in that book?
The whole book is your definition.
How about this? Oh, the one I used. Call everything racist till you control it.
Oh, so wait, but then that literally means that critical race theory can mean basically anything you want it to, right? Like,
Only
can
if
I
you're
have,
calling
like,
it racist till you control it. I mean, I'm defining critical race theory in the modern American context as that. We can go back to Herbert Marcuse, One-Dimensional Man, or Jacques Derrida, or Michel Foucault, but the most agreed upon the most agreed upon academic theory is Intro to Critical Race Theory, 1991 by Derek Bell.
Yeah. Wait, but
Are you familiar with that literature?
well, yeah, I read the book, but I don't remember anything about it. It was for like a college class. Like, let's be honest, nobody remembers the books they read in college.
Sounds like a great value proposition to go to college.
Nah, it is, trust me. But like, well, but you didn't go to college, so I guess you wouldn't know.
It's true, I didn't.
So
let me ask you though, does that mean that I'm not able to have this conversation with you? Because I actually remember the book and you didn't, and you paid for it.
So first of all, I didn't pay for it. There's these things called scholarships.
Oh, so somebody else paid for you not to remember the book that you were supposed to read. Oh, some wealthy donor or taxpayer paid for you to not remember the book.
I have a question. Who are your wealthy donors?
Many of them are in this room. Thank you guys for your wonderful support, by the way.
Interesting.
We have over 130,000 grassroots donors at Turning Point USA, 130,000. I think we have some people in the back that chip in $5, $10, $15. God bless you, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. We are a grassroots funded operation. But let me give you another example. I'll give you 5 things that critical race theory believes. Number 1, the notion that racism is ordinary and everywhere. Number 2, the idea of interest convergence, otherwise known as intersectionality. Number 3, the social construction of race, meaning that there is a social construction around race in our society. The 4, idea of storytelling and counter storytelling. Number 5 is that no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you do, you cannot remove racism from your society. Those are 5 pillars of critical race theory based on Derek Bell's Intro to Critical Race Theory. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, but like, okay, so let me stick with this. What do you think? Oh fuck.
We'll edit that out.
My
Don't worry.
Oh, my bad. Wait, am I not allowed to?
It's not encouraged.
Oh, okay, sorry. What was the third point? My mind is dying.
The social construction of race?
The social construction of race. Do you not think that race is at least partially socially constructed?
Depends how you define it.
So, like, what defines where one race ends and where one race begins?
Depends who you're asking. I think race is completely and totally irrelevant. Do you think race is relevant?
No.
Okay, then why are we talking about race all the time, and why are we talking about critical race theory?
Well, you brought it up at first when you were doing your speech.
Right,
So,
remember I said it was a lie from the pit of hell that we should repudiate and stop talking about all the time? You're on scholarship?
sorry, what?
Nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
So to answer your question, I don't think that race means anything, and I guess you don't either, right?
Yeah.
Right. So then why do you keep bringing up race whenever you're on or speaking on a stage? I am not speaking on a stage bringing up critical race theory. You are.
No.
So.
I'm bringing up how critical race theory destroys society and how we shouldn't talk about race all the time.
Okay. But you're bringing up race.
No. Critical race theory, not race.
Okay, so what's the second word in that?
Yeah, it's race, but it's a theory of how to view race, of which is a mind virus pathogen destroying America, of which I said again, just to reemphasize for those in the back, we could replay the tape, we'd throw the red flag, we'll watch it over again. I said that what? Race means nothing. I care about your actions, your character, and most importantly, your soul. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So 2010 Justin Bieber tries to play the old "I'm on a scholarship and you didn't go to college" card on Charlie. Oh, wow. That one could not have backfired any harder. Now, I understand that he's probably nervous in front of the crowd, and in the everyday situation, he's probably a little bit more articulate than this. But bro, don't come out with the appeals to authority. And the point he's trying to and struggling to make about calling Charlie a hypocrite basically for talking about race is one that annoys me. Our culture is totally and utterly saturated by discussions about race relations. And normal people don't really want to be having this discussion because they understand that it's an arbitrary aspect that doesn't really define you. We would way rather be having discussions about merit and competence and getting to the nucleus of what really makes people thrive. But we've been dragged into this petty, boring, low IQ discussion about race. And the problem with critical race theory is that it makes everything about race. It makes people see the world through the lens of race. And when this phenomenon is happening, we need to be aware of it and we need to be providing an antidote. If you don't attack the disease, then you can't provide the cure. The cure will always attack the disease. And guys like Charlie and James Lindsay and Chris Rufo have been doing a great job in shining a light on this subversive ideology for exactly what it is. And let's face it, we have to be very careful when it comes to our information diet because there is no shortage of propaganda out there, which is why I'm so glad to be partnering with the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. These days, it's becoming more and more obvious that you cannot trust the mainstream media anymore.
It's extremely dangerous to our democracy.
But the positive thing is that we have a company like Ground News to keep us armed and dangerous when it comes to current events. They're a game-changing startup that I've been using since way before I had any YouTube subscribers and when dyeing your hair blonde was cool. An interesting one that I follow is called Ground News. The reason why Ground News is such an incredible tool is because it's so important to be able to see both sides of the coin, and Ground News solves this problem for you. They have really clever features such as my favorite, which is the blind spot. Check this out. I can click on the blind spot, then I can scroll down to see all of the stories and how they're being reported by left, center, and right. And then boom, what do you know? The Biden administration imposing gender identity pronoun mandates on employees. And you can see here I can click on left, see that no one's reporting it. Center, no one's reporting it. But on the right, there are some people reporting it. And just on the right here, you've got a feature that I love, which is the bias distribution chart, which is a visual representation of all of the different outlets that are covering the story and where they sit within the political spectrum. They've even got a super convenient app, so you guys can check them out with the link in the top of the bio, ground.news/rattlesnake. That's ground.news/rattlesnake to help them with their mission to keep the news more transparent and to help out the channel. And now on to the next part.
I just want you to answer this one question. Do you understand that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white? You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you. That is all.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist police officer shoots me, right, and kills me, right? For you to be a white man and you see that and don't say anything about it, I believe that my community would be upset about that. Now, all you have to do as a white man, you don't have to get on the internet or on Twitter and say, "I'm sorry for being white," but you should at least acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
Okay, well, yeah, if an individual act of racism happens...
That is just taking accountability for what happens around you.
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't have to be accountability for a whole race, do I? Why do I have to be accountable for the white race?
For yourself.
Right. So if I'm racist, I'll take responsibility for
You
that.
probably are not racist, but
Thank you. So then why do I have to comment on somebody else's racism?
But what you should do is take accountability for the racism around you. Not pretend that it doesn't happen around you. Like, again, the example that I gave you, that if I was shot by a police officer and you found out that person was racist, right? Now,
but why would you say take responsibility? How can I take responsibility for somebody else's actions?
What you should do is just take accountability and say, hey, yes, that was racist, instead of saying, no, that officer wasn't racist.
Well, hold on. You got to show me an instance, an example, but we're talking about such a micro problem that doesn't exist. Do you know that a black person is 18.5 times more likely to shoot and kill a police officer than a police officer is to go and shoot an unarmed black man?
But is that the question that I asked you?
No, you asked a hypothetical about if I'm going to take accountability for a racist police officer.
So again...
But do you understand, if I inverted it on you, would you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in America?
That was funny.
No, would you? Why don't you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in New York?
I wouldn't take accountability for it, but what I would say is, yes, there are a lot of black people in my community who do dumb things to other black people and to other white people. What I would not do is just pretend that it doesn't happen, so that, like I said, you as a white man has to do the same thing.
I acknowledge it happens. I also acknowledge it's rarer than lightning striking you when you're outside.
That's it.
But let me ask you, who is Tony Timpa?
That's all I wanted you to do. Thank you.
I acknowledge it's rare, and I'm not going to have to take responsibility for an entire race at all. It's wrong and it's terrible. I wish we could have continued the conversation.
This is what your taxpayer dollars are funding, ladies and gentlemen. So just an acknowledgement is all we need, hey? And then all of the BLM riots will stop.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers. We can turn the tide. It is time to take responsibility. Call out hate, step up, and take action.
So I guess anytime something ever happens to anybody who is black or white, people just have to acknowledge that that was racism without asking any questions. Okay, first of all, they are the ones ascribing racism to these situations. They are the ones who see race in everything. White police officers have the same dealings with white people all the time. And like Charlie said, the likelihood of a black man to kill a police officer is much higher than the reverse. So then with your own logic, that's just racism, right? Surely that's racism. So then you would have to take responsibility for that, and you would have to acknowledge this because your skin pigmentation is kind of similar to the person who did the crime who you've never met.
That was funny.
I don't think so, because just like when something happens to a black man at the hands of a white man, you have to provide proof that that was racially motivated. And the inability of him to provide an actual example there, and the subsequent need to create the most painfully generic hypothetical, says all you need to know. If you want to call things racist, then show the evidence and also be consistent. And now on to the next part, where Jeffrey Dahmer actually steps up to ask Charlie a question that would probably have Charlie's security team on high alert.
We're gonna hang out.
Appreciate it.
Watch your movie.
All right, the last question. Make it good.
I'll try to keep it spicy for y'all.
Okay.
What's up, Charles, man? You're on record for stating, and I quote, "This is the gayest generation of America." What are your overall thoughts on this? Because some of your opponents seem to believe you have homosexual tendencies.
Well, it is the gayest generation ever. Every fact shows that more young people are gay than any other generation. So is there something you'd like to tell me, or do you want to just read off a phone and parrot
Oh,
somebody
no,
else's
I wrote down that question, obviously, because it was a quote. So, I mean, I didn't want to mess it up and you come for me or anything like that. So like I said, man, what are your overall thoughts on that?
On my thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my record of my marriage speaks for itself. But is there something you want to tell us about your own?
I mean, you don't gotta accuse me of being gay. Just because you're married don't mean that you're not homosexual yourself.
Well, you came up here asking about the gayest generation. I got some questions about you, man. And
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, you're coming to my campus that I represent, calling us, you know, one of the gayest generations.
Well, it is
in America.
One out of 5 young people are lesbian, gay, or trans.
And even though I don't,
it's the gayest generation ever.
Congrats, man.
Congrats? No, it's not a good thing, actually.
All right. Well, I mean, my point is you're coming to our campus, you know, obviously saying that. And,
No, I didn't say it. You repeated it, but I'm happy to defend it.
You did say it. You did quote it.
Well, no, not early in my speech, but I'm happy to repeat
well, yeah,
it.
not in your speech, obviously.
Yeah, it is the gayest generation in American history. That's a fact. Do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that because I feel like we've been
Then
able
what's
to...
the question here?
My question was just what are your overall thoughts on the quote and, you know...
I defend the quote.
Okay, cool. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Internet's going to love that one. Yeah, you'll be real famous.
It's not every day that you get Jeffrey Dahmer accusing you of being a homosexual, guys. And I wonder what he meant there by homosexual tendencies. I hope he wasn't generalizing and stereotyping, but really impressive there. High-level stuff, and I think that all of his friends will be super impressed by his trolling, and maybe, if he's lucky, he might even get his pee-pee touched before he leaves college.
She gave one pee-pee touch. Okay.
How embarrassing. So guys, don't forget to hit those links for ground news at the top of my bio. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can click right here. And if you'd like to watch another video, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.